The Suitcase murder trial. That's probably what you know it as. Sarah Boone is her name. She's the woman who uh, put her boyfriend in that suitcase, zipped it up, and then videotaped taunting him and making fun of him as he begged for his life. Sounds pretty horrible, doesn't it? Is it though when you understand more of the case and you learn more about the boyfriend, George Torres, who seemed pretty abusive and she seemed to be kind of taking a lot of it? Was this evil? Was this a horrible person just trying to kill someone that she hated? Or is this someone who, if I let this man out, he's probably going to kill me? Joining me to discuss, Eric Faddis, defense attorney, former prosecutor. It's a weird case. Sarah Boone, clearly someone who's not the healthiest in the mind, doesn't make the greatest of choices, just regular observations that I can make based on what we've seen about her so far. Certainly doesn't make her anyone who should be the recipient of any sort of violent abuse. And if that did occur, it's not good. We now have video that we've seen of George, the boyfriend, before he was dead, uh, smashing her TV with a baseball bat and swearing at her and yell. Eh, to me, it's like anybody who's walking into someone's home and smashing the television, they don't make good choices. And they probably don't make good choices with that bat towards other things. I don't know, like people. Um, so it put in more context in here of these people are kind of off the hinge, or at least we've seen him off the hinge for sure. Um, how does this now play to the jury? Of was this was this self defense? I mean, clearly she wasn't in immediate danger at that time, but when you put battered spouse syndrome in there and you understand how that works, how abuse works, it does make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, one thing my dad, Jim Faddis, always said, we can always, think about who might win, but that's why they play the game. Because when you actually go to trial and you actually hear both sides, you start to get a more richer, deeper understanding of the dynamic between these two people. Like you said, usually self defense requires some imminent threat. But when you're running a battered spouse syndrome aspect of self defense, the imminency requirement is maybe relaxed a little bit, meaning that even if the person isn't threatening you like right there in that moment, they presented threats over the course of time that have caused you to be in reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm. That's the defense Sarah's running.
I would think that once you're in that situation, you have the abusive boyfriend zipped in a suitcase, can't get at you, and you've sat there taunting him for an hour or more. There's allegations that maybe she even kind of used the baseball bat at the suitcase too, trying to prevent him from getting out. But let's just take the what we have seen on camera, the taunting. This is what you get for abusing me. This is what you get for that, and I'm paraphrasing. Um, I would think you might be in imminent danger if you let the monster out of the bag.
It's certainly a fair point. Certainly something the Boone camp is going to try to convince the jury of. But there's also just the callous aspect of sort of how she's acting during that. And so that kind of cuts against someone who's like, oh, really scared for their lives and worried something bad's going to happen. When you're actively taunting someone, doesn't mean that something bad wouldn't happen if she let him out, but it sort of it just cuts against her ability to argue.
I agree. I mean, when it comes to situations like this, you're dealing with unhealthy people. You're dealing with people who are not making great decisions. Um, there clearly was a pattern of abuse here, and one could say it maybe went both ways as well. But this is a couple that could sit there and watch a movie and drink and have fun and enjoy each other's company, which it sounded like was going on prior to the suitcase entering the equation. And then you can very quickly veer off into some sort of violence, which it sounds like happened prior to this night having taken place. Or you can veer off into nothing happening. It's just it seems kind of just random, if you will, or wherever the emotions may take you. So I can understand her fear, but it seems like she was always living in some sort of a constant fear. So then it comes down to personal responsibility. Why does this person in your life? And then we get into abuse and the cycle of it and being trapped and blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, we all do have free will. We can make choices to remove ourselves from situations as difficult as that may be, where the way out is not necessarily murdering someone.
Yeah, totally. And in Colorado, where I practice, the jury can, in self defense cases, often consider whether there were reasonable alternatives available to the defendant and whether he or she availed him or herself of those alternatives. So, could she have called 911? Could she have, like, I guess unzipped it a little so more oxygen could get in and then left? I don't know. I think there are possible alternatives that could have been considered without letting this man torturously die within this suitcase and then claiming it was self defense.
He did torturously die. I completely agree with that. The claim of self-defense, I don't know how well that plays. I mean, I get the battered spouse syndrome. I'm just wondering if this should honestly has been a more of a claim of I'm an idiot. I think like an 11-year-old, you know, because she
Yeah.
seems to. I mean, she's asking the judge for Pop-Tarts, chips, and 5 mints and all sorts of weird shit. Like it's like something an 11-year-old would be concerned of having to spend long days in the courtroom and getting your snacks. It's not something a real healthy thinking adult would have run through their mind. That just tells me how much he thinks like a child, which also lends me to think, yeah, I mean, a child could easily put a friend in a suitcase and think nothing of it either. And it's a brutal, horrible death. But I don't know that she sat there thinking, I want to have him die a brutal, horrible death either. Then she just wanted to taunt this asshole for abusing her.
Yes, she is a peculiar bird. I've watched some of the proceedings and the trial, and it's sometimes she's very very articulate, and she seems like she's understanding the legal process reasonably well, making requests that make sense. Other times, it seems like she's totally aloof and detached, and saying things that everyone is like, raising their eyebrows, saying, "What are you talking about?" And so, yeah, perhaps that would have been something for her to bring up and just say that, this is a horrible accident. And she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know that he was about to die, even though, despite his statements. There are other courses she could have considered during the trial. Maybe we'll see some of that. I don't know.
Maybe it is fascinating. It's one where we're watching again. I feel like we're watching like an injured animal to a certain extent, where it's like this person's not right. They're not. I mean, I think she's competent to stand trial, but not right. There's just something not right about this, and I hope justice is served, whatever that may be. I don't think I know the answer to it here. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.